Hi, Bailey.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. I think Curtis is.
Parking and grooming have also received high marks. Just knowing there's a lot of engagement there. And even though we have a lot of powder snow, people feel really confident in terms of the condition of the overall runs.
Hey, Curtis.
Hey.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Do you know Bailey? And Bailey, do you know Curtis?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Hi, nice to
Bailey.
meet you.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for joining us.
So Curtis, let's try to do the screen share. So I'll share my screen and then I'll stop sharing. And then you'll be able to hit the button at the bottom. It's right in the middle. And yeah, and then you feel free to try because it's kind of funny. It asks you like which screen or what you want to share.
Okay. Let me try that now.
Yeah, feel free to.
It's disabled attending screen sharing. So somebody's got to turn on screen sharing for me.
Oh, sorry. Are you able to screen share, Carrie? I think it's because I made you a co-host.
Oh, yep, I can, yes.
Okay, well, I can also just make him a co-host. I made you a co-host. Can you now?
Yes.
Cool. And who is the other presenter, just so I can make them a co-host too, Carrie?
That'll be Dane Buck,
Okay.
but he is not going to be sharing my presentation.
Cool.
So I have just a bunch of warning signs on all the different options. There's desktop. Keynote is the application I want to share, but it says Keynote unknown. So it's showing up. It's recognizing that it's there, but it's just saying unknown. Let me just hit the share button and see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Oh, it says, maybe it's my preferences that are preventing it. Let me open that up. So let me try that. Oh, there we go.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Good. Last minute.
It says I have to leave the meeting to do this, so I'm going to leave and join back in.
Okay.
Thanks, Curtis.
Oh, here we go.
Nice.
And if I hit play, is that like?
That's perfect.
Okay. Uh-oh. Got some auto stuff turned on. I got to turn that off. Let's see here. Okay, let me turn this off so you don't have to see me. Oh, stop there. There we go. Okay.
Curtis, your bookshelf is very nice behind you. It looks very cozy.
This is my man cave.
Nice. I know Dane is at some kind of very remote composting site. I don't even know where. I sent him a text and he responded, so that's good. I just hope he's got good service to call in.
Mhm.
Any ideas how to turn off my autoplay? Yeah, in other words, my slides are just auto-playing. Slideshows. Here's customized presenter display.
I think Dane just joined.
Nice. Curtis, I'm not familiar with Keynote. I'm sorry.
Carrie, you have to be familiar with everything when you want to do these kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm failing.
Well, I'll talk fast or slow to match the slides.
Alicia or Bailey, have either of you heard if Phil is going to be able to join us today?
I think at least Megan is supposed to from ECW. I'm not sure about Phil.
Got it. Perfect. Hi, Dane.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
How's Wyoming treating you? Is it cold?
It's cold, but things are better today.
I heard it's been pretty wild. A lot of snow.
Yeah, yesterday was a weird day for sure.
That's too bad.
Well, we'll give everybody another minute or two, a little extra Zoom time to join, and then we'll get started.
In which case I'd probably then go to Lynette. So it would be you, Melissa, Lynette, Joe in particular. Yeah. Likely each doing a day. Yeah, that would be fun. I can do that. Good idea. I like that. Good idea.
Okay, I think we should get started. We have a lot to cover and only have an hour. So I want to make sure we've got time to get in everything and have time for so
You guys can sit on either side. Auntie's over here. There we go. So you can walk.
welcome to the sustainability series, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. To be here to hear about food waste composting options here in Teton County. We are really excited about this topic, and it is really near and dear to my heart. So I'm very excited to be talking about this. As a friendly reminder, keep yourself on mute if you, unless you're speaking, and go ahead and type your questions into the chat feature, and I'll keep an eye on those and make sure we get those answered in due time. And on that note, my name is Carrie Bell. I'm the Waste Diversion and Outreach Coordinator for Teton County Integrated Solid Waste and Recycling. And our mission is to manage solid waste in the most environmentally and economically sound fashion, including education on reducing, reusing, recycling, and composting as much as possible. Our goal is to reduce waste sent to the landfill by 60% by 2030. And one of the big contributors to us reaching that goal is composting, and food waste composting specifically. Now I'd like to let Alicia or Bailey from Yellowstone-Teton Clean Cities and her organization, if you'd like.
I don't need a baby.
Yeah, I can. So I'm Bailey, and I'm the project manager for Yellowstone-Teton Clean Cities. And our mission is to displace petroleum usage and promote alternative fuels and alternative vehicle usage in the greater Yellowstone area.
Awesome, thank you. Bailey, have you seen if Megan was able to join?
I have not seen her on yet, so we should just move ahead.
Sure, thanks. Okay, so let's get started. Quickly, let's look at why composting is so important. Probably most don't need to know this, but just in case, or you guys already know this, but just in case you don't, organic waste in the landfill generates methane. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and by composting wasted food and other organics, methane emissions are significantly reduced. That's a huge benefit to composting. In 2013, the Wyoming Solid Waste Diversion Study found that approximately 20% of the state's waste stream was food waste. And in 2017, a waste characterization study in Grand Teton National Park found that 40%, it was actually more than 40% of the waste stream was attributed to food. So here locally, I think just by nature of our community and the influx of tourism and visitors, et cetera, that we see,
I think Curtis
a significant contributor to the waste stream. But also, composting really assists with carbon sequestration. Carbon is stored in compost in the soil and is thus not released into the air. Additionally, food waste has a lot of value by providing nutrients back into the soil during the composting process. But I won't go too much into that. I'm going to let the experts go more into that. That's the juicy stuff. Just a reminder, if you're not muted, to go ahead and mute yourself. Thank you. So let's jump into the Teton County Food Waste Composting Program. It is very new. We began accepting food waste on February 1st of this year, so just this month. Our program is open to residential and commercial food waste, as long as you're able to self-haul it down to our facility. Anybody is welcome. Right now, we're able to take food waste from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. And as the program grows and expands, we'll also expand our hours of accepting the material. And food waste is charged at $65 a ton, and the $10 minimum does apply. And that's the current rate. We do have a commercial food waste hauling plan in the works. So keep an eye out for that in the next few months, if that's something you're interested in. But always feel free to reach out to me if you want to know the status of where we're at in developing that plan. But right now it's all self-haul, bring it to our facility, it gets weighed there and composted from there. And I've created additional resources to assist with businesses that are implementing a new program. That can be found at our website, but I can also see that transitioning really well for residential customers that are new to composting food waste and collecting that appropriately. So take a look at those resources, and again, reach out if you have any questions. So now I'm going to pass the torch to Dane. Dane is from Terra Firma Organics. He's our composter down at the trash transfer station facility. And I'm going to let him talk about the more interesting and fun parts about our program.
Okay, can you hear me okay? All right. So thank you, appreciate that. Really excited to be a part of the new program. I think the biggest thing that we want to start with is just, we want to keep this simple. The idea is when we own other facilities that have food wasting or food composting options, and we've learned over the years that, we try and complicate what we can accept, what we can't accept. It really makes the program challenging. And our goal here is to be successful and get the most waste out of the waste stream. And so what's important for everyone to understand is we have a 0% tolerance for trash and garbage. And the reason is that if I said 5%, my 5% is probably less than your 5% as a producer. And so we get into these problems of trying to quantify what a percentage is. Is it by weight? Is it by volume? And no matter how you look at it, any percent of garbage is 100% of our problem. If we get garbage in our compost, let's say glass, for example, we can't get it out because through fractional separation is the term, but basically screening, the particle size weighs the same, let's say, as a rock or a piece of wood. And so there's just simply no way to separate it. And now we have glass laden compost. And just ask yourself, if you were to go to the store, would you buy a compost that had little bits of garbage in it? And you probably wouldn't. And so for us, it's a really big deal, and it's really hard to go the other way. So what we're pushing for, and with the help of Teton County and getting a depackager, is that 0% is what we are accepting. If that material comes in with any garbage, we have to discard it. So I don't want people to send it in and think, oh, they'll separate it. We won't. It'll just go into the garbage. And so it's really important for people to know that there's a 0% tolerance there. In our process, some of the things that looked organic and they were organic, the real term of, it had a life cycle, that don't apply are like shellfish, for example. The reason we don't take shellfish, clams, and those things, that's Mother Nature's glass, and we can't get it out. So what we start with are just going to be, we like to call it the clean and green, but what we really love is all of, like, in your kitchen, and we do this at my house. Basically anything that had a life cycle that can degrade. So obviously shells don't degrade quick enough for us, but anything that had a life cycle, we can take meats, we can take lettuce, we love. Just as you're prepping in your kitchen, anything that we can use, we put in the compost bin, which is just as simple as a 5-gallon bucket to start. We also had Slim Jims when we did this with some of the larger producers, with the Four Seasons, with Teton Science School, some of the other participants we had. We were able to have just 2 stations, and when in doubt, throw it out until you get good at knowing what works. Because you don't want to risk having an entire dumpster thrown away because of one little bag. That's a really big deal. The other reason that we're concerned about this is that when you go into even the depackager, what it does is it cuts that stuff up. So there's still a chance that we're going to get little tiny bits of microplastic. And we take pride in the fact that there's no garbage in our product. We're a very clean compost facility, and we're that way throughout all of our companies. And it's because it's what we would want to buy. We don't want to buy compost with little bits of plastic in it. Something that has been a real challenge for us at one of our facilities, we get a bunch of these organic apples and fruits in from a whole grocer. They have stickers on them. Well, those stickers are not organic. They don't break down. And we can't get them out. It's horrible. So that's something that we ask people to just be diligent, care enough, not just about the cost savings and about the option of composting, but care about what you're doing to the environment. We're asking people, it doesn't break down, don't give it to me. Just put it in the trash. It'll go to where it needs to go. But to throw away an entire dumpster because we have one plastic bag in it, that's frustrating. And we don't want to see that. Secondly, well, first off, I guess, Carrie, do you want me to answer anything if it comes up on your screen? I don't see anything on mine.
I'm not currently seeing anything, so.
Okay, perfect. A lot of people have questions about like meats and that type of stuff. We can accept all of that. We'd prefer not to take bones right now if you can help it. But that stuff, it'll come out in the wash in the end, but we prefer not to take those things. So to start the program, we're just asking for people to be 100% clean with the material they're bringing in. You will be responsible for whoever your hauler is to make sure that your bins are clean. We don't have a washout system because at the transfer station, we don't have a way to manage that leachate. So that's going to be something you're going to want to work out with your hauler or yourself. I'm sorry, I got this radio on. And then, gosh, Carrie, what else am I missing on just the accepting side here?
You know, I think you have really hit it. It's our program is food waste only, which does sound really simple, but like you mentioned, I know from my own household, the produce stickers are a thing.
Yeah.
And making sure those are removed is really important, and going that extra step because they don't break down. But in the lines of produce, I think we see other things like rubber bands, you know, binding your celery or a tag on your pineapple top, things like that. Those are really critical things to look out for, you know, when you're starting to collect food compost. When you look at it like that, it's pretty simple, just, you know, food waste only. Like you said, Dane, if it had a life cycle, I think that's a really good way to categorize it, with the exception of shellfish. But do you want to dive into our no's list, the no?
Yes, and I don't have the list you have, so if I miss something, I'm kind of going from memory here. And I just saw someone ask about avocado pits. Avocado pits are we can take that. But the no's are going to be, and actually from our last program, exactly what Carrie just said, and I kind of forgot about this, but the rubber bands, the little things are really the big problems that we miss. The little tiny things that we think, it's not that much. But no is going to be basically shellfish. We're saying obviously no trash whatsoever, no glass whatsoever, no plastic bags. No, and we think of trash is trash. Anything that did not live is trash in my mind. So a lot of people are asking, well, can we put it in a bag, get it down there? Will you open it? We will not open it. And I think it's the hard part for us is it's already really hard to find good help in our town. If you say, hey, good help, I want you to dig through the garbage for a living, I won't have any help ever. So what we're trying to do is make this a long-term sustainable option. And I know we can get there. We've done it on the other aspects of composting. We have one of the cleanest sites around, and it's because our community is committed to what we're doing. And yeah, it's a pain and it's hard to do sometimes, or more of just a nuisance. But having people work together with their haulers to use Slim Jims so that the material goes right into a plastic container that can be dumped is what we want. We are not accepting any compostable ware. I'd like to go into some of that. I'm sure there's some discussion out there. All of our sites that we work with have banned it. We actually are working with some of the compostable ware producers to come up with better options. But right now, guys, the reason is it doesn't break down properly. And even the stuff that does break down, we have found that there is a micro amount of plastic that is in the product. They still use, in some cases, not all, but they still have been using small blends that go into the plastic. And the way that they get by is they say, well, it's degradable. And it's degradable to a certain percentage, but there's still this minute amount that is in the product. And we have just found that, you know, it just adding little micro doses to all of our product is problematic. And our company will not stand behind a product that is not 100% compostable. So for right now, we're saying no. The other reason is that the depackager, if we go back to that term fractional separator, it doesn't know the difference. When it separates, let's say, a plastic bag from a compostable plastic bag, there's no way of knowing the difference. So the machine is going to throw that stuff away anyway. If your choice is to use it knowing that it will degrade in a landfill and you feel better about that, then by all means go that route. But in the future, we are going to try and maybe segregate those and accept those separately. But at this point, that is not on the table. We've done that with some of the grocery stores where their packing was separated, their egg cartons, those things. Those are all wonderful things for us to compost. It's just the machine won't be able to tell the difference. And again, back to sorting through the trash, that's not what we're here to do. So in time, I think we'll get there. Today, as step one, we are just doing clean food waste, and that's it.
That's awesome, Dean. Yeah, thank you. And some of really might apply more closely to commercial food waste collection, but I think it can also speak to a residential situation too. To keep in mind, if you have like a soup or something, to make sure you drain your soups. And that is for a lot of reasons, you know, especially if it's just water-based and is safe to go down your sink. You know, you probably don't want to be paying the $65 a ton for, you know, water. But also, if you're storing your bin, whatever your collection receptacle is outside, you don't want that to freeze. You don't want to have to deal with that. But especially on like a larger scale collection, you definitely don't want a lot of liquids in there. It just makes things, I mean, outside of the freezing, but it just makes things a little bit more difficult for all involved. So that's something to consider. And then more on the commercial side, are prep gloves. You know, just making sure that, I mean, I guess even in times of COVID, we probably all have a little bit more gloves around than we normally would, but something to keep in mind, you know, gloves are not compostable, but it can be just such a habit to take those off and toss them and make sure you're putting those in the right bin. And if you are in a commercial setting, you know, back of that house kitchen, that you've got bins placed appropriately. Part of our resources that we're happy to offer is, you know, coming to your kitchen, your commercial kitchen, and helping, you know, kind of locate and place your bins so that you have the greatest success, and also help train staff. We have resources in English and in Spanish, and I'm willing to be anywhere to help in this transition process, because it can be a significant learning curve for sure. Well, great. Dane, is there anything else that you want?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay? My phone's doing weird stuff. No, I think that's great. And I think to anyone that's on, I can't see who's on this, but to anyone that's on, you know, this is all just a learning curve and a process. So I think that it's important to just, if there's concerns, if there's things you'd like to see, approach us. We're here to solve problems. We're here to make this work for the community. But to Carrie and the group at the waste systems at the county, this is an awesome first step. I mean, we're moving into a whole new world of diversion, and it's exciting. And we're just looking forward to working with all the participants and get this thing going. So, and I think I just saw someone ask about coffee grinds. The grinds are fine. We don't want the filters if possible. So.
Awesome. I'm glad you're able to see the questions. I'm not able to see the questions right now, so I'm glad you're tackling those. I appreciate that. Well, on that note then, we're going to hand it over to Curtis. Curtis was integral, just to give a little bit of history. Teton County partnered with Grand Teton National Park, West Bank Sanitation, Wyofarm's Composting, which is Curtis, and a slew of others to complete a pilot program up in Grand Teton National Park over the course of the last 3 or so years. And it was really a great way to troubleshoot how to appropriately collect food waste from commercial entities. And, you know, some of the issues we saw, or, you know, lessons learned, if you will, really were coming from, you know, the education, and then also bins and bags and all these things that we really weren't expecting. But Curtis really was integral in that he took our food waste the pilot program, but he was a great partner and we are so grateful for him to do that. And I'm going to turn the torch to you, Curtis, and let you talk about your program. And I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks, Carrie. I appreciate your ongoing support to reduce, reuse, and recycle in Teton County. And thanks to Bailey for hosting this event. Appreciate it. So again, I'm Curtis Hatterley from Wyofarm Composting. And I'm going to share a screen here, see if this works. And we started in 2018 with commercial composting. I do want to explain the difference between food scraps and compost. So food scraps is what we produce as people, you know, when we're cooking a meal and we have trimmings from our produce or whatever, or when we're done with our meal. And
hey, Curtis.
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I don't know if is it just me, but I think you might be sharing the wrong screen. Or is that
okay? I'm seeing my correct screen. So what are you seeing?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just me then. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. So again, food scraps is what you want to get rid of, and compost is the end product. So just wanted to make that distinction. And compost really is a miraculous product. It's since I'm a farmer, it's we typically call it black gold because it's so valuable. And so that's why we have such an opportunity here, is to take what otherwise would be a waste product and turn it into a highly beneficial program. And this fits into Teton County's Road to Zero Waste Initiative and the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle initiative. So we're happy to be part of that. So as a farmer, I love compost, I love the soil, I'm happy where I live, and I really detest waste. So this works out for me quite well, because all of these things is what I'm passionate about. Home scale composting, obviously there's more homes than there are businesses. Businesses can contribute large volumes, but home composting really can make a difference. And Carrie shared the statistic about 40% of trash being food scraps. And then you could also say that about a third of the food scraps come from homes. And most of you may be familiar with this food recovery hierarchy. So as an individual, I can reduce the amount of food that I waste. I can donate my excess food to places like Whole Food Rescue or 122. We can feed it to animals, which fits in with our scheme. In fact, that's how we started off on this road, is since we're a farm and we have pigs. Allie from Whole Food Rescue approached me, this was clear back in 2013, if I wanted to take food that they couldn't use, their excess food. And so since 2013, we've been bringing vegetable food scraps to our pigs, and then also Healthy Bean Juicery joined quickly thereafter. And at some point we just decided, yeah, let's start a composting business so we can expand on what we've been doing. The next level would be composting. And then the last option is to put it in the trash and just let it go to the landfill. So again, at our farm, we have the animals that can eat this food scraps. We put in our dump trailer, we haul it to the farm, where we put it in big piles, we mix it up. And this is where the magic happens. So in these piles, the microorganisms generate heat and break down all of the various compounds into more stable compounds, so that because on a farm, for example, sometimes farms have a reputation of stinking. Well, that's methane or pneumonia, and that's all just going up into the atmosphere, which obviously isn't good. That's lost nutrients. So a compost pile captures those, turns those elemental volatile gases into complex compounds so they're stable. And then we can distribute them out onto our farm ground. And compost is a wonderful end product that's stable and is not releasing those volatile gases into the air any longer. And the last option is the landfill. So in Teton County, if you put food waste in your trash can and the trash company picks it up, it goes to the transfer station and it's loaded on a truck and it's hauled to Idaho, which seems pretty strange. But in that landfill in Idaho, it does no one any good. So hopefully we can all be motivated to do better and to take the extra minute that it takes and to separate our food scraps from the trash so that we can put these food scraps to good use, which from our perspective, we turn that into vegetables and cut flowers and hay and grain. This is barley. And we put it on our vegetable beds, our growing beds. We put it in our high tunnels where we grow mostly vegetables and cut flowers. And we do this commercially, meaning we have these 32-gallon roller carts that we distribute to businesses that want us to pick up their food scraps. We provide as many of these 32-gallon roller carts as you want, and we can pick them up once or twice a week. The pig uniform is optional but recommended. And we pick up these bins and we do accept meat, bones, and shells. The meats and bones seem to be breaking down fine. The shells definitely are more resistant to breaking down, but since we're so new, we're giving them a long trial and see if they will break down over time. We do have a lot of commercial customers currently composting with us. In 2019, which was our first full year, we collected 480 tons of food scraps from Teton County. And that was a good first year. And we also do residential composting with 5-gallon buckets. So we do home delivery and pickup. Then we also have drop points where you can meet us and bring your compost in a bucket or otherwise and put it in our dump trailer. We also sell all of our farm products. So on our website, you can order food scrap pickup, but you can also order meat, milk, honey, eggs, produce, cut flowers, along with your composting and other things. So Dave mentioned contamination. Contamination is terrible, and it makes the otherwise great experience of composting not so pleasant. So because we were new, we were naive, and we didn't know the level of contamination that would be happening. And so we have spent a lot of time pulling trash out of compost. And as you can imagine, it's not a fun thing to do. And we're not big like Dane, so we don't have all the big equipment. So this is literally a hand job where we're picking these things out one by one, and and then we have the added bill on top of having this stuff hauled away as part of our trash. So again, I think sometimes people get confused between recyclable, biodegradable, and compostable. And so, but compostable has to be something that nature is able to break down. And so my no list includes glass, for the obvious reasons that Dean mentioned. If glass breaks, then that's a disaster in your finished compost. Plastic is as bad, if not worse, because again, it breaks down into these little teeny pieces that become impossible to remove. Metal is not acceptable. And then you can get into things like twist ties. So twist ties are small, but they do have that metal piece in them. As far as somebody asked a question about coffee grinds, we do accept coffee grinds, and we've also been accepting the coffee filters. they seem to break down just fine because they're thin and they're in the compost pile, they seem to break down fine. And they're, as long as it's in moderation, people will throw in a napkin or two, and that's fine because again, that seems to all break down fine. We've had commercial customers that were doing pizza boxes and stuff like that. And we don't really want to do that. The problem is not that the cardboard wouldn't break down. It's just that when they stack up, then they can create an anaerobic zone, and then they just sit there. They don't really break down. And then this brings us to another issue about the compostable cups and the cutlery and the bowls and the plates and the clamshells and all of that. And I've been trying to get to the bottom of this, but it's more complex than you would guess. Unfortunately, a lot of these companies that are producing compostable, in quotes, products, sometimes these compostable items contain toxic substances. So there are paper products, specifically hot paper cups and bowls for hot soups, for example. They are coated, or at least they have been up until this point, with a toxic chemical. It's a PFAS, and it does not break down in a compost pile, and it is toxic to humans. So, and there are companies that are producing products like this that state they are compostable. So I think that's a tragedy. I don't know how or why that happened. I did contact one of the companies and they said, oh, the FDA allows us to use short chain PFASs, but not long chain PFASs. So I'm just telling you that because it's not as easy as you would think. And it's important for us as the composter to try and not include toxic substances, obviously. And we do not accept yard waste because so many chemicals are used on yards that we wouldn't know if you do or if you don't. And so we don't accept lawn clippings or any kind of yard waste that way.
360.
We have, as Hatterley Farms, when you buy food products from Hatterley Farms, and you compost with us, we've been putting the food items that you purchase into a compostable bag. We have had good experiences with these compostable bags and encourage people to use them. We now sell them and encourage people to use them in their buckets. And we're encouraging also the commercial customers to use the commercial bags, the larger bags. They help keep the bins clean. In the wintertime, it helps the food scraps from freezing in the buckets and in the bins. And even if that bag never comes back to us, it's still compostable. So even if you put it in the trash, it's going to break down rather than normal plastic, which does not. Yeah, so we can get really clean compost. Here's the warning, the cult of compost. So if you're like me, the need to compost, let's see. I'm going to back up there because I wanted to make sure you saw that. Need to compost once awakened is insatiable. So that's where I'm at right now, is this need to not throw food scraps in the trash is a real passion of mine, and we're eager to share what we've learned and our experience with composting with others, so that hopefully they can catch that bug as well. So anyway, we offer these composting services. We have a website that you can go and you can either through wyofarm.com or hatterleyfarms.com, you can find us and you can order a starter bucket. And again, on that website, you'll see that we drop off at certain locations and pick up at certain locations 3 days a week, or we do home delivery 3 days a week, depending on where you live in Teton County. Our pricing starts at just under $6 per bucket. So if you bring a bucket full of compost, then we swap you out with a clean bucket, and you can have more than one bucket if you want to. And then and then if you purchase food, if you purchase $20 or more of food from us, then we credit $4.75 of that back to your account. So your composting can be inexpensive, and in some cases even free, depending on where you live and if you're picking up or dropping off, and different criteria like that. So I think that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Curtis. You always have the best pictures. You tell such a good story with your photographs. It really is amazing. Well, as you can see, there are 2 great programs offered in the county. Pick whichever one works for you and roll with it. At this point, I think both Curtis and I can agree. We don't care. We just want you to compost. And so, and go with it. We do have some really good questions in the chat box. So I think we've addressed the coffee grounds. Well, in the Teton County program, coffee grounds okay, filters no. Curtis, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are good with coffee grounds and filters.
Yes.
Perfect. Avocado pits are good. Green compostable bags are a no-go in the Teton County program currently, and sound like they are good in Curtis's program. And let's see. Okay, so I might need Dane or Curtis to jump in on the technical chemistry question. I could give a very light answer, but I'm sure there's more information there. Why does the same food waste in a landfill produce methane, whereas in a compost yard, it does not?
Did you say you want one of us to answer that?
If
okay.
Sure.
I can, unless Curtis wants to. We both know the answer. It's an easy one. So in a landfill, it lacks oxygen. So the product goes anaerobic. Anaerobic decomposition produces methane. That can happen in your own compost operations at home as well, or even in ours. So anytime you smell that in your operations, that's just due to lack of turning, lack of oxygen. Oftentimes it happens too with too much water because it takes the place of oxygen. So really it's the same outcome occurs. It's just it produces different bugs, it produces different gases. So, but it still produces compost, honestly. It still degrades. It's just the slower, dirtier way of getting there. So, and I'm sure Curtis might be able to add that.
Yeah, so exactly. Methane or ammonia, which is or smells that we've all smelled before, are not good smells. And in my farm situation, that's just telling me that I'm not doing a good job managing either my animal manures or my compost pile, because it's going into the air. That's why you're smelling it. So so you get it in that pile and you get it with carbon, and then that breakdown happens so quickly that it doesn't go into the air as gas.
I might add to that too, with what Curtis mentioned there too. That's part of the reason there's different schools of thought on. That's why earlier I said, if you want to use compostable to go in the trash, my only reason of hesitation there is that we're just promoting degradation and an auction deprived environment. So if you put a compostable bag in the trash, it will produce methane in that system. Some landfills have methane capturing, but that's why we're kind of promoting people. While I wish we could take it, right now we don't. But like Curtis's system is good. You can send him the bags and he composts it and probably does it right. In the garbage, my concern is we're just producing methane. So in that case, that's where I'm saying, look, let's just get better at using our bins and managing our bins, because you're just putting a plastic sheet inside of a plastic bucket. I don't see the real gain, honestly. I understand there's some water savings there, but I do think that people should consider these things as they choose which direction they want to go, not for either Curtis's system or ours, but just as their habits in life, so that they're not being so wasteful.
Awesome. That was a great question, and those were really good answers. Thanks, guys. So there's a question about tours. I can definitely say for the Teton County program, yes, we offer tours. They are going to be kind of based on current health metrics. We're looking a little better. That is definitely something, if somebody was interested, we could talk about. We are looking at doing a virtual tour. We recorded virtual tours of both the recycling center and the trash transfer station this summer, so that they could be available to the community, classrooms, clubs, anybody who's interested. And we're also looking at recording a virtual tour of food compost this spring, summer. So that'll be available too, depending on where health metrics go. But Dane, or I'm sorry, Curtis, do you want to mention if you do tours?
Yeah, we always welcome people to the farm, especially young people, because we're looking for the next generation to take over. We're wearing out over here, so.
That's good. I like that. So there's another good question about the Teton County program offering containers. Right now, we don't have any plans to offer containers. I think we're really waiting to see how our commercial hauling plan kind of falls into place and to see how that all develops. But I think it's a great idea. Not to steal Curtis's idea by any means, but the 5-gallon bucket it works really well. It was a really good idea, Curtis. I believe this question is from Wes. Could we potentially collect and reuse containers? I love that idea. I think it's great. There are a lot of 5-gallon buckets and those kitty litter buckets around town. You know, we all use them in some capacity. That would be a great way to reuse those, because with our program, you know, you bring whatever works for you in your system to our facility, and you dump it out at our location. So whatever receptacle works for you works for us, as long as it's nice and clean. But I think that is a great idea of how to make sure people have the containers that they need. Also, there's a question about, does the county accept food waste, or I'm sorry, yard waste? Yes, we do. Dane has been running the yard waste compost program for years. That generally constitutes at least 15% of our diversion rate every year is the yard waste composting at our facility. So it's been a really successful program. Dean, is there anything you want to mention about yard waste composting?
Yeah, so you stated it. I think our numbers are higher than 15. From a company-wide stance, I think we're closer to the 28 to 30 with all the materials diverted. So Terra Firma's operation, we've been there for 15 years. We are the largest recycler in the state. We make Teton County the largest recycler of all the state entities. So Teton County does a good job. This is just the next step, is going into food waste. And what Curtis was mentioning earlier about what people put on their yards is so real for us. There are what we're challenged to deal with, and unfortunately we have to take it, is in green waste, we don't know what people do. And so we have to manage against clopyralids, we manage against aminopyralid. These are herbicides that are used for killing broadleaf plants that are persistent, and they stay in the soils for years. And so we have a program that tests all this stuff down to 1 part per billion. And that's usually 3 parts per billion is where it detects in tomato plants. We have different products that are guaranteed to be clean of those substances. And then we have products that have it. And to put in perspective, in marketing, we look at that as kind of a weed and feed. It's not a very effective weed and feed. It's just a feed because it's such low amounts. But our products are used in throughout Teton County in landscapes. It goes for highway projects. It goes for the parks. It goes all over. And the biggest part of what we do is we have to sell our products. Without the community's support and without this material getting back out, we just have a new color of trash. It's pretty, it's brown, but we can't get rid of it. And then the only other thing I would caution is people are getting excited about compost is you can use too much. And that is important for people to understand the science of soil is not simple. So, you know, a little goes a long way. It's a good idea to get into a program of utilization of what we produce because you're doing a great job of getting it to us. Now do a good job of getting it back. Our company offers services where we can come out and do soil samples. We can send them off to the lab, find out what you're lacking in particular in your soils, and then add it back in through different blending processes we have. So that's just something that as you take this a step further and you look at these programs, the success of getting it in is so important on the success of getting it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Dane. We've got another good question about how do you deal with cold temperatures and composting slowly or not occurring at all? Curtis, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, the advantage we have, Dane and I, is that we have big piles. So when you have a pile that's 10 feet high and 30 feet wide and hundreds of feet long, it's hot. It doesn't matter if it's 40 below outside, it's hot inside. Obviously on the very outside of that pile, it's not going to be hot, but that's where the turning comes in. So big piles do heat up and they will stay hot all winter long. So that's the advantage. Now I don't know if this is part of the question, but picking up frozen buckets or frozen bins is a disaster. I have chipped way too many bins. And so we're trying to figure out how to not have that happen. So from a residential standpoint, I'm suggesting that people leave the bucket inside in the wintertime or in a garage at least so it doesn't freeze solid, or at least put it in the night before so it can thaw out enough so we can get the material out of the bucket. From a commercial standpoint, same thing. Either the bins need to stay inside or they need to be rolled inside for the night so we can get the material out. Or using the bags. If the bags truly are intact, then and the moisture isn't leaking onto the bin, then those bags will drop out. So that's a burden upon the composter to help us that way.
Thank you, Curtis. I've got another question for you. What about accepting garden waste into your program?
Yeah, garden waste would be fine because obviously herbicides would not be used in a garden setting. Pesticides could be used in a garden setting. I'm not aware of any pesticides that would not break down in a compost pile. Dane, you may have some input on that. But again, if you're a home gardener, you probably hopefully your home garden would be at least hopefully clean as far as toxic substances. So your plant residue, because we put all of our plant residue in the compost pile because we're not using any herbicides or pesticides.
So to Curtis's point, the only thing that I would be cautious about, and we've seen this, when people add their own amounts of manure, and if that manure is coming from an animal that has eaten quarantined hay, weed-free hay, that can contain clopyralid. And so what it does is it concentrates in the animal, gets in the manure, and they add it to their garden. So I would just be cautious to any users that are putting manure in their gardens. We have found the highest spike of clopyralid, which is the worst one. And that comes from animals, and it's in their manure. Now, if you are a farmer like Curtis who's aware, you don't do that. So the beauty of Curtis's operation is he can communicate with all those players and make sure they're not doing that. Our system, we have to go through weed and pest. We have to reach out to the larger groups and make sure they're not using those products or getting hay that has gone through that process. Little fun fact, my father was the one that started the quarantined hay program 30 years ago, and now I get to deal with it. So I get to thank him for that.
Fascinating, interesting stuff. Okay, so to both of you, Curtis, we'll start with you. Where can we purchase composted generated by your farm?
So on our website, farmmatch.com/Hatterley Farms, or you can just go to hatterleyfarms.com or wildcompost.com. We have links to our purchasing site. We just have compost in bags or in buckets. They're for sale. If you want larger cubic yard quantities, I have a dump trailer that'll hold 4 or 5 cubic yards, and we can bring it to your site and dump it that way. And just depending on where you live, the price can vary with that.
Awesome. Thanks, Curtis. And Dane, where can we buy your compost?
So all of our compost is sold at Evans Construction, the front of Evans Construction. We have a rock yard that provides base gravel, rocks, landscape boulders, basically anything you need for landscaping. And you can buy as much as you want. We have anything from semi loads to small dump truck loads. We do deliveries. We also have bag line products. Our bag line products are coming out of one of our facilities down in northern Nevada. That's where all of our blending is done. So if you're doing more specific organic required garden grade specs that you want for high production, we suggest those blends. We can also get those in bulk as well. But all of our products currently are being sold through the Evans facility. And you can call in and get to the landscape yard anytime, and we can set up deliveries or purchase.
Awesome. Thank you. Dane, I'm throwing it back to you. Do you consider grass clippings clean or troublemakers when it comes to fertilizers?
It's a good question. Grass has challenges, and Curtis mentioned it earlier. We just don't know what people put on, and in the world of horticulture, usually the worst players are homeowners, because most homeowners don't realize, they think if some is good, more is better. You see that with water too. We overwater everything and push our nutrients through the soil. So I think the biggest problem in lawns, if you overwater and you're shoving all your nutrients down and getting it through the profile and getting it just gone, then you're adding more. So you're constantly adding unnecessary amounts of, let's say, nitrogen, or and we struggle with that, especially if it's a petroleum-based product. Your salt contents are typically higher, and it throws off the chemistry in the soils. So while grass we have to take, it does have high nitrogen in it, and that's a component of decomposition that we want. So it's a trade-off, and that's why we go through a pretty rigorous testing of our products to make sure that they don't have chemicals in them that can kill your plants. And if they do, they go into a whole different group that is marketed towards plants that don't get affected by that. Because no matter if we agree with the fact that our neighbor is putting it on or whatever, it exists. And the only known way to break those persistent herbicides down is through degradation. That composting. That can happen in your soils through nutrient cycling. That's when the plant takes up nutrients, produces a top, dies, falls on the ground, and does it again. So the only known way to degrade those problem child created issues is going to be what we're doing. We're cycling it through. We're letting Mother Nature break it down, and that's the only thing in those persistent herbicides. All they are is really well designed weed killers. That's all they are. And so they just fight against degradation. So the more we allow degradation, the more it breaks them down. If you have a problem with that, you can always reach out to us. But one option is also to water it out. That's the only other way to get it through, is to flush with water, because a lot of that stuff's carried. But really what I want is for our state, our leaders to reach out and ban the use of these chemicals. They're stupid. I don't even know why we use them. But anyway, that's another topic.
Thanks, Dane. That's good advice. Good answer. We've got one more question right now, and it's for the Teton County program. Any idea when haulers will start up? Currently, I unfortunately don't have any information on when haulers will start up. It has been a surprisingly complicated process of figuring that out. So we're a little delayed on getting a commercial hauling program on the ground. I'm hoping, or I think we're all hoping by early summer that will be in place, but I am definitely not making that promise at this point. But we will let the community know for sure, because we want as many businesses that aren't already composting with Curtis, that want to jump on. We want them. We want that food waste. So people know. Well, we've got a couple of minutes left. Are there any other questions or topics, Dean or Curtis, anything else you want to mention?
I did want to mention, this is kind of an experiment, but the compost that we sell in bags is not in plastic bags, it's in burlap bags. And that might seem comical, but I'm so against plastic at this point. I just couldn't stomach the idea of making this beautiful product and then sticking it back in a plastic bag. So I bought some burlap bags. I don't know how scalable that is, but we have sold compost in burlap bags and they are returnable. So people are actually bringing the burlap bags so we can use them again.
That's awesome, Curtis. I love the reuse. That's great. And I like the burlap better. Yeah, for sure. That's great. Any other last thoughts, questions, anything?
I will just say hats off to that on the burlap. I'm with her or Curtis on that. We really struggle with even the putting product in compost or in plastic bags. So if there's anything out there that people can throw at us, we have a lot to do, but solving all these problems, that's what we're here for. So yeah, I think love the topic, love where this is all headed. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, if there aren't any other last questions, I just want to say thanks for laying the groundwork and collecting and composting food waste for the last several years. You've done great work for our community and really gotten this going. And thank you so much, Dane, for composting down at our facility for so long and taking on this program with us. We are really excited, and I know that anybody's welcome to reach out to myself, and I don't want to speak for you, Curtis, I can only assume, with any questions about your program, how to get started, etc. On that note, thank you again so much. This video will be available, so if you've forgotten anything or if you have a friend that wants to watch the recording, it will be available soon on the Yellowstone-Teton Clean Cities site, and I'll share on our social media as well and make sure Curtis has it too. All right, thanks again, everybody. Have a nice day. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.